Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From the Mount, a podcast from the campus of Mount Perrin Christian School. I'm your host, Steve Kyle. With me, Viola Lussier. Hey, Viola.
Hello. It's been a long time.
It has been a minute. You're busy.
I know.
You're too busy. Lots of counseling going on.
All good things.
All
it's
good
a
things.
lot of stuff.
Well, it's and I say counseling going on too. I mean, you're also a mom to two girls. Your wife to a needy. No, I'm just kidding, Jeff. I have no idea how needy you are. But yeah, you're busy, and we're not really, because of the way this year has gone, recording as often as before. I've got a long list of things, but welcome back to another a podcast episode. And if you're listening, you're in like this probably group of people. Because I get a significant amount of feedback about this subject a lot, because we've done other episodes about this before, Viola, with different guests. But our guest today, not a newbie to the podcast.
Not a newbie.
So glad to have Amy Schwan back. Amy, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
Awesome you're here because you're both kind of the experts. But Amy, I recently read a blog that, if you're listening, might already be out. I think that it should be. Maybe you've read the blog. If you haven't, you need to check the blog out on our website or a Weekly Word or wherever you find good quality blogs. I don't know where that is, but on a really important subject that when I read it and others, I know it would have been helpful information for me. I'm not saying I might have changed anything, because but I know for me it would have been, and I am certain there is no doubt there are parents who are like. And I'm talking like pre-K, kindergarten parents who are already thinking about this. And this is going to be unbelievable helpful information having to do with college admissions and the really an interesting way to look at it. I think maybe different than before. And so and real quick, for those listening that may not know who you are, Amy, in your role here at least, you've served in a few different roles here. But you're currently what?
I am the Associate Director of College Counseling, and my total years in education is 27, and 25 of those were as a high school classroom teacher. And the past 2 years I have spent focusing specifically on college and school counseling.
Yes, yeah. And you've gotten 3 of your own.
Correct.
Through college, through the undergrad portion. There's
Correct,
obviously education continues. So more than just a college counselor and kind of a thought leader in this. Yeah, you've gotten 3 of your own kids through it as well. So, and I think that's important to note. So it's not like, hey, I've read a whole bunch of stuff about it,
right?
But I can't wait till I get to do this. Because there's learning with that, because there are things you probably, even my guess would be, and we haven't even had this, you go back and go, I think I might have done this differently.
Absolutely.
Or I might have encouraged that differently. So it's one of those learning things. And I think if you're listening now, it's one of those, hey, I probably can learn something from this podcast. So, and then Viola, you're more than just the podcast co-host, really important, but you also obviously are the director of counseling here at Mount Perrin. So you're obviously going to be speaking into this as well. All I'm doing is facilitating an educational discussion.
You're doing great.
Yeah, I'm a facilitator, which is like it's a nice way to say you don't do anything of any kind of value, Steve. All right, so if you're the podcast and the blog were essentially entitled College Admissions, a Marathon, Not a Sprint. First, what prompted the writing of this particular blog and now leading to this podcast?
Well, I think that each year as we navigate college admissions with our graduating classes, we start to glean a clearer perspective in what are the schools looking for in any particular year. And, I think back to when my students or my children were applying to college, that was 4 and 5 years ago. What worked then isn't working now. And so I think that it's given me some insight to be able to share with families that this is a process that happens over 4 years. It's not something that you just jump in at the end like a sprint. you run it really, really fast and get a great time. A marathon takes training, it takes endurance, it takes planning and preparation and proper nutrition and guidance, yeah, like the whole 9 yards. And so, maybe my inner geek of a classroom teacher came out, and I was like, how can I describe this so that it's tangible and it creates a visual? Because I'm also a visual learner. And I think about, training for a sprint is different than training for a marathon. So if we can get people to latch on to that long-term planning, we're going to see the benefits in terms of their college admissions.
Yeah. And what's interesting and different for me, because obviously I was in college 25 years ago. For a long time, college admissions seemed to be, although there were changes, they were subtle changes over years. And then all of a sudden, I mean, to think that in 4 years, what happened, it used to not be that way. And so a lot of people, if you're my age or around my age, you're thinking, oh, do you really think? No, they actually do change that fast. And that's why this is a really important thing to consider, that it didn't for a long, at least it didn't seem that way for me for a long time. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, so that's different now. Oh, wow, this is a brand, so that they've changed that from last year. That's different than last year. Oh, so it's more, you have to do this now. And so I think it's important you're listening, because if you are, and we'll have middle school listeners, we have a lot of lower school families who listen to this, who no doubt have their kids here because this is part of their certainly a priority for them. So this matters to them. So this idea is we're comparing the admissions process like a marathon and a sprint. And so first of all, let's quickly start with this kind of sprint mentality and really why, although sprinting is different, there's nothing wrong with it. And it's not that even you probably can't be necessarily successful in it. Right. To say that somebody else might go, that's not true. I waited, crammed everything in, and look at me now.
Right.
But that isn't, those are the exceptions, not the norm.
Correct.
So what is the sprint mentality, and why do kids fail oftentimes in situations like that?
So I think what happens sometimes is that people have this aha moment around junior, even going into the beginning of senior year of, wait, I haven't done enough. And so then they try to do all of the things really, really hastily. We're going to join 4 clubs this year. We're going to do 40 hours of community service. We're going to get a job. We're going to cram in test prep. And it's like, had you been planning all of that all along, you wouldn't feel this immense pressure. And, quite frankly, that sprint mentality, if you don't have good results from all of those activities, and it's not going to yield the results. So, for example, if students decide freshman and sophomore year, they're just going to kind of cast through academically. And then by junior year, the institutions to which they want to apply are looking for more difficult courses. They're looking for more continuity in your application package of the activities you're involved in. Do you need the portfolio for the School of Architecture? And you've kind of sat back and rested freshman and sophomore year. You're going to hit that panic mode junior and senior year, and probably not going to be able to do the quality things. And universities are going to be like, it's a little too late to the party. So if we begin with the end in mind, freshman year, and one of the things that I love about our counseling model here at Mount Perrin is that we meet with families every single year to discuss academic and collegiate planning. And so there's no surprises really when it comes to junior and senior year. So even for families that aren't a part of our school community here, I would just encourage you, it may seem like it's too early in freshman year to have these discussions, but it's better to do it earlier than later so that you're not regretting that I coulda, shoulda, woulda, like, why didn't I, explore
or
this?
I didn't know.
I explored this club or this opportunity. And I think what happens is towards the end, we get caught in this rat race of wanting to check off all of these random boxes, and none of it tells a cohesive story. Whereas if we started this in 9th grade, I want to be a veterinarian. Okay, well, let's see, what types of things are you involved in outside of school? Are you working with a homeless pets organization? Are you volunteering at an animal shelter? Are you getting a part-time job at a pet store? Are you shadowing a veterinarian? Like, what are the things that you're doing that are in alignment with what your future career goals are? And I will say, there's a lot of high school students that have absolutely no idea what they want to do when they grow up, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But find something that you're interested in,
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't think it's a potential career, and tell a story within your application. But that story truly begin, and it can begin before 8th grade, but really, or 9th grade, I'm sorry. But if you can tell a consistent story about your interests, it's going to be much more appealing to for your institution.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned in the blog a few things about creating extracurricular profiles, stress and burnout. These are having a kind of a weak or thin extracurricular profile, stress and burnout, missed opportunities, inauthentic applications, because we're just waiting till the end to fill in some blanks, check some boxes. And oftentimes I would certainly think that admissions experts today can see through that. Oftentimes they can just be like,
The key thing that an admissions officer would see on an application is if you suddenly try to do everything that the school provides. Okay. So, for example, all of a sudden it becomes really important for you to be like an NHS or Beta or a Spanish club or whatever. When he's talking about finding your interest, y'all, it could be something as simple as we had an archer, a girl who did archery. And it could be anything like, costuming. It could be, whatever their passion is, you need to know who your child is and what they like and what they don't like. And let's foster that instead of trying to make them fit into this like box of what you think that they should have, because one time when you were in high school, that's what you should have had. So you have to really step out of this whole entire process and see, like, what is the best thing for my child? And it's not to push them into something that's going to be boring or terrible or arduous. It's them into something that they will already love to do and that they want to do more of.
Yeah. So we look at this now in the sprint, and again, I don't, certainly there are lots of people, and I was one of them as in my family at the time, the first college attender. Parents didn't go. My older sister and brother did not go. I think for me, it was kind of like senior year, maybe even second semester, like, yeah, I'll give it a go. So what do I need to do? That was really what it was.
And you could
again,
do that,
you could then. It wasn't absolutely not the same, but I had that same kind of, no doubt, I would say even in 2025, I might have, knowing me, I might have done the same thing. And I'm not saying that you can't look back and say, hey, if you're a senior and you've done nothing, of course, we'll kind of wrap this. You're done. Yeah, sorry, but the only thing left is, but
right.
There's
and I
other
think
things.
People don't understand when we talked about like how fast it changes. So there was like the big, the NCAA Final Four kind of stuff. And when Amy and I were talking about it the next morning, I was like, oh man, I can't believe so-and-so won, because that's just going to really drive up their application process.
True.
And it is as simple as the year that Tennessee beat Bama. It went nuts.
Yeah.
So you cannot plan with what is going on right now. You have to plan with just a broad, like, okay, this is what I'm looking for, the type of school, the type of education, the type of like rigor and all that kind of stuff. And then we start fitting things in.
And to that point too, nobody could see what the pandemic and
Sure.
2020 was going to do to college admissions.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you add the Common Application, often called the Common App. It has made it so much easier to apply to a whole host of schools. And then you have schools like the University of Florida this year that had 90,000 applications. Well, how do you make yourself be set apart in 90,000 applications? We don't have a magic formula for that.
Right.
So if you come into our office and you're like, I've got to go to the University of Florida, we're not making you any promises.
Mm-hmm.
You could be the valedictorian or salutatorian. I still can't promise you that you're going to get into the University of Florida. So we have to cast the net wide. And so not narrowing our focus and what we're doing in this marathon approach just for one particular school. It has to really be for a wide array of schools. And so another word of encouragement is like, we cannot get 100% sold on any one university. The college admissions just really isn't working that way anymore, especially if you're looking for more competitive schools.
Right.
There will always be schools. There's a school for everyone. Let me just say that. And God is going to place you where you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a firm believer in that. But you got to do your part as a student. But I just feel like if we're not casting our nets wide and we're narrowly focused on one particular school, we very well could be disappointed because it's that unpredictable. And I don't say that to increase anxiety around this process. It's really to say, let's have fun with it and let's explore what other options there are, because there's some really incredible universities and programs out there that are waiting to be discovered.
How many times have you gone onto a college campus for a college visit and you left and you thought, I would go. If I were
100%.
19,
Yep.
18, I would go here again.
Yeah. And then,
I mean, there's so many great ones out there.
yeah. And that's really our role too when we sit down with you, is to brainstorm what could be on this list. You know, that's why we beat the pavement. We meet with college representatives. We go onto the campuses because we go thinking, which one of my students can I envision here for the next 4 to 5 years, and where can they make an impact, and where can they be impacted? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so I think this is a good lead, because we're gonna move into the marathon part, and I think this is and Amy, you just kind of referenced this a little bit. It's this, when you're especially you're at a school like ours, we are a excellent academic institution focused on college, readiness and prepared for. That's our focus, but also a Christ-centered school that desires God's plan for your life. So it's this interesting tension, because we recognize that, and you kind of alluded to it when, hey, you're going to end up at the school, but if you don't apply for colleges, God's not just going to send you a letter in the mail that says, congratulations, you've been accepted to Harvard. Or you could even apply to Harvard, but you've done nothing to do. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
It does require, and that's why it's this interesting tension of going, all right, God, the great thing is I do know you have a plan, but Scripture speaks to this. Proverbs talks about but that we are called to be wise in our plans, that it's the wise that plans for their future. They certainly trust God, but they plan. Jesus said, who's going to build a tower without considering the cost? You're setting yourself up for failure if you're trying to do something without planning. So there's a lot of biblical support to this idea. We're certainly not planning God out of this. We're giving God's Spirit an opportunity, the best opportunity to work. And that sounds a weird thing, but it's scriptural. So let's, with that in mind, let's then move into this kind of marathon approach. And we'll quickly move through, because you kind of give, you set it up over the 4 years, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, of things that they could be doing. So wherever you are on that spectrum now, maybe listening, you're heading in, the blog kind of unpacks this. We may get to all of it, we may not, but you can certainly find it there. Let's get into this now marathon approach and the kind of plan starting with the freshman year. All right, that would conclude part 1 of our 2-part episode. Make sure you listen to part 2 of this amazing conversation about college admissions, a marathon, not a sprint.